Good morning, welcome to my channel. My name is David Okun. Welcome to Friday morning. I am talking about the cost of living like I have done for the last few months. And join me in looking at the what causes the cost of living. Watch this video and the rest of the video because they are continuous. We are looking at China today to find out what is happening in China. Mentioned in the beginning that in terms of policy and practices, what happens in one country happen in another country because of harmonization, whether you are in Asia, whether in Europe, America, Africa, the same things are happening. The promotion of capitalism to manage the economies of the nations, and this is happening in China. We will be looking at a material to review the same so that we understand what is causing the cost of living around the world, not just in China, in one country. Around the world, the same thing because of globalization is happening in one thing happening in one country is repeated across the globe, something called globalization. And I've also said if we have a situation which is challenging a crisis like the cost of living crisis, it is our responsibility as humanity to solve that problem. And whether you're a young person, whether you are an adult, whether you're an elderly, it is your responsibility. Where the government has taken responsibility, you also have to take responsibility. The cost of living crisis, wherever it occurs, is caused by poverty. I am been talking about the cost of living as an example of a number of crises happening in the world. And you can do a study, independent study on the cost of living to try and understand the root causes of societal problem in which actually take away peace, because the most important item in our life is peace. We know little about the future, but the present as we live, and also our history support us to understand what our future might look like. And we always choose to live in hope because we are humans. We have capabilities. We can actually change the future to be what we want the future to be. And this is important. That's why I live in hope. I believe if you walk with me, if you on this journey, if you move with me, if you join me in this journey, then we will start living in hope. And this video is about hope. It's about optimism that we will succeed in the end. Things now may look very grim. There are wars, there's crisis in Ukraine, Middle East, Africa, different parts of the world. There is the catastrophe involving the environment, nature, and diseases, and aging. People die. Some people die young. But in the end, humanity as a species will triumph. And I believe with technology, we will even conquer aging. We will conquer death. We can reverse also death. Something called regeneration, regenerative health. We have so much power in our life. We are so able, and we live in exciting times. Development has really succeeded. Technology, engineering, science. We have never been more wealthy as nations of the world, and yet at the same time, because of the way capitalism is being managed, where the public sector is being closed down, and by nature, capitalism concentrating wealth in the hands of the few, taking away wealth from the hands of the many. This is actually fundamental. It has to be moderated by the state, and the state's primary function under capitalism, wherever it occurs, including in China, which we are going to look at in a minute. The state has intervened to moderate extreme poverty. And a lot of the time, the majority of the population, between 80 and 90%, living in poverty, may not realize they're in poverty because of the credit system, among other things. If you get decent pay from your employer or from your self-employment, even if you are not a multimillionaire, because of credit, you are given credit to boost your income. But in case you lose your job and the credit, the credit you get from creditors, which is the money you borrow, will stop, because if you don't work, you're not going to get credit anyway. If you're on low income, on minimum wage around the world, up and down the world, you most likely not going to get credit. So you begin to feel poverty. But you need to be aware that even if you're feeling good about your life, you don't feel poor. The moment you're not a multimillionaire, rest assured, if you work for a living as a necessity, if you are a small and medium business, you are poor. Rest assured, and you are actually susceptible to the crisis of the cost of living. Actually, any crisis happening, you suffer first, including natural disasters like flood, like fire, burning your home, accidents of any sort. You're so vulnerable. That is the idea of poverty. This is created by capitalism. The state is there to support it. I have been repeating this point over and again, and you also listen to it over and again and do an independent study. This video is support your independent study to try to whet your appetite, to generate your interest in the idea of providing solution to your own problem. The government of the world is sending a message that you should be independent. They are selling the entire world to the super rich. If you don't really start solving problem, you're going to be excluded from the resources of the world. And that is on the front of development. Things are okay, but things are not okay, because if you're excluded in terms of development, if you're excluded from the wealth of the world, then you're going to be excluded from life. Only those with access to wealth, which are actually the few, will remain alive. The rest of the world are going to go extinct. But because of violence, the poor will die first, then the rich will die first, will die last. And that is my prognosis on humanity. Unless we learn the cultural economy, which is actually valuing humanity and prioritizing humanity. I have said this also again, and I'm going to be saying it again. We need to pay attention to this, because education is important. We need to know what is right and wrong. We now live in a society where we are taught that there is no wrong or right answer to our situation. That is not correct. The correct proposition is that some things are wrong. Some things are wrong, others are right. We need to know this. And that is what our culture teaches us. If society or even the government or any source of learning teaches you that there is no wrong or right in life, then they are actually not paying attention to humanity. They are not valuing humanity. They are not learning their culture. Culture should actually teach us instinctively. If somebody punches you in the face, you can't tell me that is neither wrong or not right. You can't stand there and say somebody punched me in the face, and that is not wrong. It is not even right. They have the right to do it. Then we have the laws, which also teaches us when we are doing legal reasoning. There is no wrong or right answers, but yet in practice, the law will tell you when you go to court. The judge will tell you that you have done something wrong. There's a contradiction. In terms of development, there is right and wrong in terms of development, but in terms of human culture, we seem to neglect the idea of right and wrong. You see, if you abuse somebody, if you swear at somebody, is that wrong or right? Then, if it is wrong, or we know that's, probably swearing is wrong. Punching somebody is wrong. Raping somebody is wrong. Killing people is wrong. Therefore, we know that it is our duty to learn, be expert on what is right and wrong. And once we have done that, then what is right leads us to truth. We have individual teaching falsehood now that there is no truth. Truth is what you make in your head. That is not true. Because if there is a sense of wrong and right leads to truth. So if you aim a gun at somebody, the truth is that you're going to potentially kill them if you shoot them. You see, if you shoot them and damage them significantly, they're going to die. That is the truth. The truth is that they're dead. So this is the truth. There is also falsehood. Somebody tells you that even if you shoot somebody 1,000 times with a gun, they're not going to die. Experience would have taught us that. We saw the gun. We learned about the gun. See, people who created the gun knows that what the gun does. If you shoot somebody with a gun, the chances are that they're going to die. That is the truth. So there is something known as truth. It is universal. You are not going to say, there are people who are so insane now, in my opinion, they are totally insane, that they think death is good. Death cannot be good. Death is always wrong. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, if you are human, then you know death is always wrong. There is not going to be another day where death is right. That's why today people justify killing. If somebody upsets you, you kill them. Because some people think that, there are qualifications whether somebody stays alive or dies. We as humans have the fundamental right. It's called human rights. Right to life. It doesn't matter what they have done, they deserve to live. That is actually, this idea can lead to peace building. And if we begin to understand one another and value one another and respect one another, then we are going to change the way we behave. We are going to change the way we talk to one another. We're going to be more tolerant, more peaceful. And this is a correct argument, and it gives meaning to our life. The way we have neglected culture, which is what I'm explaining, our culture is so neglected that you go to places, you don't even recognize that those are humans. The way they behave, you see, and behavior is learned. It's a learned experience. If you behave like wild animal, and there are communities you go, people have now taught themselves to behave in ways which are actually so strange. This is not acceptable. If we are to survive, we have to become human again. We are not aliens. We are not elephants. We are not buffaloes. We are not snakes. We are not lions. We even name ourselves lions. Some people name their children honey. It's in what stings us or what we like, which is sweet. Something sweet. At least I would prefer to be honey, which is what we eat. But I wouldn't want to be a stinking bee. I wouldn't want to be a bee which produces honey. It produces sweet things, nice things, but it says if it stings you, it's a very nasty insect. So people are now naming themselves with some names actually mean elephant. How can you name your child elephant? They will begin behaving like elephants. They begin behaving like lions. They begin. I mean, imagine naming your child dog. Your child begins to bark like a dog. It starts behaving like a dog. You see, if you start you give the name like animal to your child is going to behave like animal. In theory. In practice, they may be normal. Be careful what you do with language. You see, there are people who are naming their cat Steven or Sharon. So their animals begin to behave in a weird way. They think they are humans. They start behaving like humans. They even begin to claim rights. Dogs begin to make decisions in your home, how you should treat them. Even if they don't speak directly, you just look at your dog, and this dog actually is changing into a human being, claiming their rights. So if you ask the dog to go out with you, they may want to stay at home. They don't want to go out. They have rights because we name them Sharon, Steven. I'm not saying we should be cruel to our pets, but we as humans, we need to know our place in the world. Now, we give dangerous storms human name, Steven, Thomas, Sharon. I don't know, this name, Katrina, in the West Indies. Storm. Why do you give human names to storms when they really destroy our lives? It is fun. It may sound fun. Look at cartoons. We give human names to cartoons, and we give animal names to people. So this brings confusion, in my opinion, and without actually straying too much, little things may mean a lot. The way we behave really matter. We need to really draw lines and prioritize certain things. And this is what culture means. It's about education. It's a long-term objective. But in the short term, in terms of the cost of living, because poverty is extremely important, the government should use the public sector to strengthen the public sector, to raise the level of income for people who work for a living, employee or self-employed in the small and medium business who are actually poor. These people should be looked after. The level of minimum wage or living wage, or whatever you call them, has to go up. In Europe, it should be maybe 30 or 40 euro per hour, including the UK with our pounds and the US dollar. It has to go up proportionately. In Africa, the welfare system should be introduced in Africa, which they are eating. Practically, there is no. Africa is the poorest continent in the world, and yet there is no welfare system in Africa from the state. And the state requires Africans to pay taxes, and the tax money is stolen by leaders. Or if they don't steal it, they probably use it for something else. God knows what, but they don't provide. Africans work and they don't get paid. They can wait for their salaries for 6 months, and the government won't even. If you ask for your salary from working for government, the government may tell you to choose whether you want to work or not. And you are being paid for 6 months. How are you going to survive? You have to pay your bills. If you're teachers, doctors. So these are the things happening in Africa. It is a failure of government. It's a form of violence, which is created by our cultural failure. We do not value people. We only value power. We value wealth, and we value everything else except humanity. That's why there is a cost of living crisis. That's what I am talking about, the cost of living crisis. You may ask why the cost of living is important. It's an indicator of negligence. It's proof of whether or not the state is negligent, whether or not we are negligent. It's the sciences. And it is proof of negligence itself. That evidence of poverty, which is created by the government, because the government is running the world, they may not think so. They may tell us something else other because they don't know what they're talking about, or they're lying to us. They are just being rude. They're maybe just being cool. And the correction for that is our culture. I have been repeating this over and over. And if you've been hearing me saying the same thing over and over, be very happy because we're making progress. And my passion is for us, because I believe in change. I believe we can learn, we can actually do new things. And because our objective as people actually to live long and to be happy. And I believe we can achieve that. I believe we will achieve that. I believe in science, I believe in technology, I believe in wealth, I believe in even power. So we need power as individuals, but we need to use our power for peace, not for war, like we are now doing. If we use our power, including wealth, for destruction, then we are going to go extinct. That is a certainty. But it's also a certainty that if we learn peace, if we learn our culture, respecting humanity, valuing humanity, you don't destroy some thing or somebody you value. So once you start valuing people, once you change the way you think about people, you begin to respect yourself, respect other people. You begin to respect things which are important to us, including wealth, including technology, including our homes, housing, things like housing, healthcare. You see, we begin to multiply what we invest. We invest decency, we respect, and peace. Peace. We sow a seed of peace. We begin to reap a harvest of peace, and that's what makes us happy. And life without happiness is worthless. And life, which is short, which means we grow old and die, is a miserable life. But I believe in technology. There is now evidence of longevity. Scientists are working on it now to prolong life by dealing with, treating aging. But like I said, there is also a prospect of regenerative health, where, if you are shot by a gun or stabbed by a knife, or if you get an accident, you heal within seconds. If you die, you can be brought back to life. That's what regeneration means, which is, is a good prospect. It sounds like science fiction, and it is science fiction now. But there are evidence now, scientific evidence, that it's a possibility. There are things we don't know, which we will know, which points to the direction of regenerative health, medicine, and things like that, which is really exciting. Which is, we should really be dealing with stress. We should be addressing stress without even medicine. The way we think, the chemical we produce when we think in a more optimistic way. And this is what I'm trying to achieve using this video process. We are getting better, but go and look at China now. We have done well. The introduction has been really long. So I'm reviewing material on China. So China, the coordinates of China is 35 degrees north, 103 degrees east. That is, if you're looking for China, the coordinates means, how to locate China on the globe. Because the globe is big, almost like a space. 35 degrees north and 103 east. That's where China is. The full name is People's Republic of China. So the republic belongs to the people. So China, if you are if you come from China, you are called Chinese. They have the flag. They have a national emblem. It's a form of identity, an ID. If you ask China, who are you? Then they're going to give you their flag and emblem to say, you know, this is us. And national anthem also a form of identity. They identify themselves. We are Chinese. Who are you? We are Chinese. They show these things like ID, national ID, sovereign ID, if you want to call it that way. So their national anthem is March of the Volunteers. So if you are Chinese, be prepared to volunteer by nature, by nationality. If you are actually you're going to live in China, be an expert on volunteering. Because their national anthem says March of the Volunteers. I don't know why they are marching. I think they are maybe soldiers. Soldiers like marching. I don't know when the Chinese are always marching. But if you are farming, you also march with your tools of industrialization, which I think is a good anthem. The duration of this anthem is 50 seconds. Which is about 1 minute. Territory is controlled by the People's Republic of China. So the territory claimed but not controlled is shown also. There are some territories which are actually claimed but not controlled. The capital of China is Beijing. If you comment below if you're from China, and let me know your experience if you have visited China. So Beijing is located at 39 degrees 55 feet, I think, feet north, or inches, I don't really know how to read this. 116 degrees 23 east, feet or inches, I can't remember now. The largest city is Shanghai. It's the largest by urban population in China. In Shanghai, official language or languages, standard Chinese. Other languages recognized in China, regional languages including Mongolian, Uyghur, Tibetan, Yuan language, and many others. Official script of China is simplified Chinese. That's how they call it, simplified Chinese. It's in the groups. There are 91.1% Han-Chinese. The Han-Chinese. 8.9% are others. Religion of China, 74.7% have no religion. 18.3% Buddhism. 5.2% are Christianity. 1.6% Islam and 0.4% other faiths. If you are Chinese, if you are a national of that country, you are called Chinese. The government is unitary Marxist, Leninist, one-party socialist republic. In other words, they don't practice democracy. CCP, Xi Jinping, this is the General Secretary, President, and Chairman, Vice President, An Zheng. These are their names. Premier, Prime Minister, Li Qiang, Congressman, Zhao Leji, CPPCC, Wang Wuning, Chairman, Legislature, which is Parliament and equivalent, National People's Congress, formation, century 2070 BCE, imperial, what is an imperial dynasty. First imperial dynasty was formed in 2021, 221 BCE. Establishment of the Republic of China was established on January 1912. It's a modern state. Proclamation of the People's Republic on the 1st of October 1949, it became a republic. And first constitution was created on the 20th of September 1954. The current constitution of China was created on the 4th of December 1982. Most recent polity admitted is from the 20th December 1999. The total area of China is 1.956 million and 961 square kilometers, 3.704 million and 407 square miles. It is number one, I think the third in the world. The third or the fourth in the world. The water surface is 2.8 the population of China is 1.411 billion people, 750,000, the second in the world. I thought it was the first. Probably India has overtaken China. 1.44 to 1.5 billion people. Density is 145 per square kilometer. 375.5 square miles is 83rd in the world. Density is not too bad. GDP PPP total is 32.898 trillion, number one. In terms of GDP, the richest in the world. Per capita income, that means wealth distribution in terms of individual income, average 21,309, 73rd in the world. GDP nominal total is 17.701 trillion, is number 2 in the world after the USA. The wealth, that means China is the second richest country in the world after the United States of America. Per capita nominal is 12,541, 71st. So let us look at the currency. Renminbi. The Chinese currency is called renminbi. CNY. The time zone is UTC +8. CST. DST is not observed. So date format is year, month, and day, or year, month, and day in Chinese. CE, Chinese calendar. So they drive on the right hand side of the road. I think like the United States of America. In Hong Kong, they drive on the left. And Hong Kong and Macau, because I think British influence, they drive on the left, like in England. So internet.cn, and you got classifications in mainland Hong Kong and Macau. Chinese. Pinyin, Zhongguo, officially the People's Republic of China, PRC, It's a country in East Asia. So China is located in the east of Asia. It's very easterly. It is the world's second most populous country with a population exceeding 1.4 billion. China spans the equivalent of 5 time zones and borders 14 countries by land, tied with Russia and having the most of any country in the world. With an area of nearly 9.6 miles square, kilometers, 3.7 million square miles. It is the world's third largest country by total land area. The country is divided into 22 provinces, 5 autonomous regions, 4 municipalities, 5 autonomous regions, 4 municipalities, and 2 semi-autonomous special administrative regions. The national capital is Beijing, the most popular city and largest financial center is Shanghai. The region that is now China has been inhabited since the Paleolithic era. This is within the ancient days. The earliest Chinese dynasty states such as the Shang and the Zhou emerged in the basin of the Yellow River before the late 2nd millennium BCE. The 8th to 3rd centuries BCE saw a breakdown in Zhou authority and significant conflict, as well as the emergence of classical Chinese literature and philosophy. In 221 BCE, China was unified under the emperor, ushering in more than 2 millennia in which China was governed by one or more imperial dynasties, including the Han, Tang, Ming, and Qing. Some of China's most notable achievements, such as the invention of gunpowder and paper, the establishment of the Silk Road, and the building of the Great Wall, occurred during this period. The Chinese culture, including languages, traditions, architecture, philosophy, and more, has heavily influenced East Asia during this period, imperial period. In 1912, the Chinese monarchy was overthrown and the Republic of China established. The Republic showed consistent conflict for most of the mid-20th century, including a civil war between the Kuomintang government and the Chinese Communist Party CCP, which began in 1927, as well as the Second Sino-Japanese War that began in 1937 and continued until 1945, therefore becoming involved in World War II. The latter led to the temporary stop in the Civil War and numerous Japanese atrocities, such as the Nanking Massacre, which continue to influence China-Japan relations. In 1949, the CCP, the China Communist Party, established control over China as the Kuomintang fled to Taiwan. Early communist rule saw 2 major projects: the Great Leap Forward, which resulted in a sharp economic decline, in massive famine, in the Cultural Revolution, a movement to purge all non-communist elements of Chinese society that led to mass violation and persecution. Beginning in the 1978, the Chinese government began economic reforms that moved the country away from planned economics, but political reforms were cut short by the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, which ended in a massacre. Despite the event, the economic reform continued to strengthen the nation's economy in the following decades while raising China's standards of living significantly. China is a unitary one-party socialist republic led by the China Communist Party, CCP. It is one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and a founding member of the several multilateral and regional organizations such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Silk Road Fund, the New Development Bank, and the RCEP. It is also a member of the BRICS, the G20, APEC, and the East Asia Summit. China ranks poorly in measures of democracy, transparency, and human rights, including for press freedom, religious freedom, and ethnic equality. Making up around 1/5 of the world economy, China is the world's largest economy by GDP at purchasing power parity, the second largest economy by nominal GDP, and the second wealthiest country. The country is one of the fastest growing major economies and is the world's largest manufacturer and exporter, as well as the second largest importer. China is a nuclear weapon state with the world's largest standing army by military personnel and the second largest defense budget. Let's look at the languages, etymology, names of China. China today is Guangdong, Mangi, inland of Zhangtong, the Katoi, inland of China, and the Zhejiang, and including the capital, Kambalo, Zandu, and the Marble Bridge, are all shown as separate regions on this 1570 map by Abraham Ortelius. The word China has been used in English since the 16th century. However, it was not a word used by the Chinese themselves during this period. Its origin has been traced through Portuguese Malay, the Persians back to the Sanskrit word China, used in ancient India. China is actually a Luo word, but it is not. It sounds like a Jaluo word, which means my intestine or my child, my baby. China. If you're speaking in Acholi or in an East African language of Luo, South Sudanese Luo, Kenyan Luo, China, which is C-I-N-A, China in Acholi or Luo, Acholi is a Jaluo. You say China, it means my intestine, which also means my child. It also, if you say China, depending on how you pronounce it, it also means my wife or my beloved, my lover. It's in a lady. A man referring to his beloved, China. But it also means my child, China. China is in intestine, which also can be is the body organ that also it can be referred to mean a child, my child. you came from my womb, which can also be referred to as China intestine, or the womb, which is actually also a child coming from the womb. This would be an actually word. I've always joked to my family and friends that China came from East Africa. They are actually people who left Acholi land and went to China. In a sense, I still believe that to be the case. China appears in Richard Eden's 1555 translation of the 1516 journal of the Portuguese explorer Duarte Barbosa. Barbosa's usage was derived from Persian chin. Chin in China also, which means intestine, or also stomach. Chin is like a noun. Chin, which was in turn derived from Sanskrit China. We're getting somewhere with this material. China, or China in Acholi, or Luo, was first used in early Hindu scripture, including the Mahabharata, 5th century BCE, and the laws of Manu, 2nd century BCE. Although usage in Indian sources precedes this dynasty, this derivation is still given in various sources. The origin of the Sanskrit word is a matter of debate according to the Oxford English Dictionary. Alternative suggestions include the names of Yelang and the Jing and the Chu state. The official name of the modern state is the People's Republic of China, simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, the Pinyin, Zhonghua, Renmin, Gongego, Gongego. The shorter form is China. Zhongguo, from Zhong, central, and Guo, state. A term which developed under the Western Zhou dynasty in reference to Israel Demesne. It was then applied to the area around Lui, present-day Luoyang, during the East Zhou, and then to China's Central Plain, before being used in official documents as a synonym for the state under the king. So if you say Luoyang is Luo, which is what I referred to earlier, Luo and Yang, Luo means the people of Luo in our language. Luo, Yang means in the past, the Luo of the past. If you put the word together, Luoyang, which is what is written here, the present day Luoyang. Luo means the Luo of the group of people, which is us. And the Yang means in the past, in history. The Luo of the past, if you put that word together, it's Luoyang. Luo as they used to be, in other words. I'm not suggesting this is a Luo word or a Choli word, but it's fascinating how words in China are so similar to Luo languages. They definitely mean different things, but I'm just trying to make this point because I've always thought they are just curiously thinking that something must be really connected. Because you say Chinese actually, anyway, migrate from South Africa. The old Asians migrated, humanity migrated from East Africa anyway, and the Luo people are in East Africa. So, one way or the other, the Chinese and the rest of the world are actually from East Africa. They are not necessarily low, but East Africans or African. Africa is the cradle of humanity. I have said that before when I was looking at Africa as a continent and also East Africa as the continent, because you see the people what the earliest modern man was discovered in East Africa, making Africa the cradle of humanity. And Luo people are actually the people of East Africa. So it's possible that because there are also black people in China who came from East Africa anyway. So it's not it's quite possible that the Luo actually occupy China. Probably some of these words are actually Luo words anyway. And also, I've always believed that because the Chinese and Asians generally are neither white nor black, which means there were black people there intermarrying with white people to create what is now modern day Asia. And the same, I think, in the Middle East, in the world of the Arabs, where in Israel, for example, and in the Arab world, including Turkish, people who are not entirely white, and they are not even black, but they are just mixed blood. You can see it, and that is my belief. It's just having faith in humanity, which is may or may not be an offense. It was sometimes also used as a cultural concept, distinguish the Oxia people from perceived barbarians. The name Zhongguo is also translated as Middle Kingdom in English. China, PRC, is sometimes referred to as the mainland when distinguishing the ROC from the PRC. Let us look at the history of China. We are attempting to look at China and ultimately interpret what we see with the idea of capitalism as being a tool operating in China, though China, as we have seen, appears to not really implementing a type of democracy as yet, but definitely capitalism is in China, which I have actually said is the cause of the cost of living. And the cost of living is a crisis, so that's why I'm talking about it. If it wasn't a crisis, I wouldn't be talking about it. The crisis of cost of living is similar to any other crisis. There are symptoms of what other factor is happening in the world. Look at the history of China and the chronological guide, timeline of Chinese history, the prehistory period of China, 10,000-year-old pottery, for example. Yes, we see Xianren cave culture, 1800 to 7,000 BCE. China is regarded as one of the world's oldest civilizations. Archaeological evidence suggests that early hominids inhabited the country 2.25 million years ago. The unit fossil of Peking man, Homo erectus, who used fire, were discovered in a cave at Zhoukoudian near Beijing. They have been dated to between 680,000 and 780,000 years ago. The fossilized teeth of Homo sapiens dated to 125,000 and 125,000 and 125,000 to 80,000 years ago have been discovered in Fuyan Cave in Dayo County in Hunan. Chinese proto-writing, it is said in Jiayu around 600 and 6,600 BCE, the Meiji around 6,000 BCE, the Yuan from 5,800 to 5,400 BCE, and Bangpo dating from the 5th millennium of BCE. Some scholars have suggested that The Yao symbol, 7 millennium BCE, constituted the earliest Chinese writing system. Look at early dynasty. The dynasty rule, 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Xia dynasty, Shang dynasty, Zhou dynasty, Spring and Autumn period, and Warring State period. Jingshu, the ruins of capital. The late Shang dynasty, 4th century BC. You can see. According to Chinese tradition, the first dynasty was the Xia, which emerged around 2100 BCE. The Xia dynasty marked the beginning of China's political system based on hereditary monarchies or dynasties which lasted for a millennium. The Xia dynasty was considered mythical by historians until scientific excavation found early Bronze Age sites at Alitao, Henan in 1959. It remains unclear whether these sites are the remains of the Xia dynasty or another culture from the same period. The succeeding Shang dynasty is the earliest to be confirmed by contemporary records. The Shang ruled the plain of the Heilong River in eastern China from the 17th to the 11th century BCE. Hierarchical bone script from c. 1500 BCE represents the oldest form of Chinese writing yet found and is a direct ancestor of modern Chinese characters. The Shang was conquered by the Zhou, who ruled between the 11th and the 5th century BCE, though centralized authority was slowly eroded by feudal warlords. Some principalities eventually merged from the weakened Zhou, no longer fully obeyed the Zhou king, and continually waged war with each other during the 300-year Spring and Autumn period. By the time of the Warring State period of the 5th and the 3rd century BCE, there were 7 major powerful states left. Let's look at Imperial China. The Warring States period ended in 221 BCE after the state of Qin conquered the other 6 kingdoms, reunited China and established the dominant order of autocracy. The King Zheng of Qin proclaimed himself the first emperor of the Qin dynasty. He enacted Qin's legalist reforms throughout China, notably the forced standardization of Chinese characters, measurements, root width, that is the cut actual length, and currency. His dynasty also conquered the Yue tribes of Guangxi, Guangdong, and northern Vietnam. The Qing dynasty lasted only 15 years, falling soon after the first emperor's death. His harsh authoritarian policies led to widespread rebellion. Following a widespread civil war during which the imperial library of Xiangyang was burned, the Han dynasty emerged to rule China between 206 BCE and the CE 220, creating a cultural identity among its populace still remembered in the ethnonym of the modern Han Chinese. The Han expanded the empire's territory considerably with military campaigns reaching Central Asia, Mongolia, South Korea, and Yunnan. the recovery of Guangdong and northern Vietnam from Nanyo. Han involvement in Central Asia and the Sogdia helped establish the land route of the Silk Road, replacing the earlier path over the Himalayas to India. Han China gradually became the largest economy of the ancient world. And China gradually became, despite the Han's initial decentralization and official abandonment of the Qin philosophy of legalism in favor of Confucianism, Qin's legalist institutions and policies continued to be employed by the Han government and its successors. After the end of the Han dynasty, a period of strife known as the Three Kingdoms followed, whose central figures were later immortalized in one of the four classics of Chinese literature. At its end, Wei was swiftly overthrown by the Jin dynasty. The Jin fell to civil war upon the ascension of the developmentally disabled emperor. The five barbarians then invaded and ruled northern China at the 16th state. The Xianbei unified them as the Northern Wei, whose emperor Xiaowen reversed his predecessor's apartheid policies and enforced a drastic signification on his subject, largely integrating them into Chinese culture. In the south, General Liu Yong secured the abdication of Jin in favor of the Liu Song. The various successors of these states became known as the Northern and Southern dynasties, with the two areas finally reunited by the Sui in 581. The Sui restored the Han to power through China, reformed its agriculture, economy, and imperial examination system, constructed a grand canal, and patronized Buddhism. However, they fell quickly when their conscription for public works and a failed war in northern Korea provoked widespread unrest. Under the succeeding Tang and Song dynasties, Chinese economy, technology, and culture entered the Golden Age. The Tang dynasty retained control of the western regions and the Silk Road, which brought traders to as far as the Mesopotamia and the Horn of Africa, and made the capital Chang'an a cosmopolitan urban center. However, it was devastated and weakened by the Lushan rebellion in the 8th century. In 907, the Tang disintegrated completely when the local military governors became ungovernable. The Song dynasty ended the separatist situation in 1960, leading to a balance of power between the Song and the Khitan Liao. The Song was the first government in the world history to issue paper money and the first Chinese polity to establish a permanent standing navy, which was supported by the developed shipbuilding industry along with the sea trade. Between the 10th and 11th centuries CE, the population of China doubled in size to around 100 million people, mostly because of the expansion of the rich cultivation in central and southern China and the production of abundant food surpluses. The Song dynasty also saw a revival of the Confucianism in response to the growth of Buddhism during the Tang, and the flourishing of philosophy and the hearts of Islam's cave art and porcelain were brought to new levels of maturity and complexity. However, the military weakness of the Song army was observed by the Joseon Jin dynasty. In 1127, Emperor Wuzong of Song and the capital Pyongyang were captured during the Jin-Song Wars. The remnants of the Song related of the Song retreated to southern China. The Mongol conquest of China began in 1205 with the gradual conquest of Western Asia by the Genghis Khan, who also invaded Jin territories. In 1271, the Mongol leader Kublai Khan established the Yuan dynasty, which conquered the last remnant of the Song dynasty in 1279. Before the Mongol invasion, the population of Song China was 120 citizens. This was reduced to 60 million by the time of the census in 1300. A peasant named Zhu Zhuangzhang led to a rebellion that overthrew the Yuan in 1368 and founded the Ming dynasty as the Hongwu Emperor. Under the Ming dynasty, China enjoyed another golden age developing one of the strongest navies in the world and a rich and prosperous economy amidst the flourishing of art and culture. It was during this period that Admiral Zheng he led the Ming treasure voyages throughout the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as the East African, as far as East Africa. In the early years of the Ming dynasty, China's capital was moved from Nanjing to Beijing. With the building of capitalism, philosophers such as Wang Yangming further critique and expanded new Confucianism with concepts of individualism and equality of poor occupations. The scholar official stratum became a supporting force of industry and commerce in the tax boycott movements, which, together with the famines and defense against the Japanese invasion in Korea in 1895 to 1898, and later Jin incursion led to an exhausted treasury. In 1644, Beijing was captured by a coalition of peasant rebel forces led by Li Jingsheng. The Shangzhen emperor committing suicide when the city fell. The Manchu Qing dynasty then allied with Ming dynasty General Wu Shangui overthrew Li's short-lived Shan dynasty and subsequently seized control of Beijing, which became the new capital of Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty, which lasted from 1644 until 1912, was the last imperial dynasty of China. The Ming Qing translation of 1618 to 1683 cost 25 million lives in total, but the king appeared to have recorded China's imperial power and inaugurated another flowering of the hearts. After the Southern Ming ended, the further conquest of the Dzunga Khanate headed Mongolia, Tibet, and Xinjiang to the empire. Meanwhile, China's population growth resumed and shortly began to accelerate. It is commonly agreed that pre-modern China's population experienced two growth spurts, one during the Northern Song period 960 to 1127, and another during the Qing period around 1700 and 1840. By the High Qing era, China was possibly the most commercialized country in the world, and Imperial China experienced a second commercial revolution in the economic history of China by the end of the 18th century. On the other hand, the centralized autocracy was strengthened in part to suppress anti-Qing sentiment with the policy of valuing agriculture and restraining commerce, like the Aijin during the early Qing period, and ideological control as represented by the literary inquisition, causing some social and technological stagnation. China stressed its Emperor Qin Shi Huang is famed for having united the warring state walls to form the Great Wall of China. Most of the present structure, however, dates to the Ming Dynasty. There are maps showing the expansion of Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BC, the Tang Dynasty at its greatest extent, and the Tang's protectorates, and the Qing conquest of the Ming and the expansion of the empire, the fall of the Qing Dynasty. Century of humiliation, Opium Wars, First Sino-Japanese War, and the Boxer Rebellion. The Eighth Nation Alliance invaded China to defeat the anti-foreign Boxers and their king Bacchus. The image shows a celebration ceremony inside the Chinese Imperial Palace, the Forbidden City, after the singing of the Boxer Protocol in 1901. In the mid-19th century, the Qing dynasty experienced Western imperialism in the Opium Wars with Britain and France. China was forced to pay compensation, open treaty ports, allow extraterritoriality for foreign nationals, and cede Hong Kong to the British under the 1842 Treaty of Nanking, the first of the unequal treaties. The First Sino-Japanese War, 1894 and 1895, resulted in Qing China's loss of influence in the Korean Peninsula, as well as the secession of Taiwan to Japan. The Qing dynasty also began experiencing internal unrest in which tens of millions of people died, especially in the White Lotus Rebellion, the failed Taiping Rebellion that ravaged southern China in the 1850s and the 1860s, and the Dangan Revolt in 1862-1877 in the northwest. The initial success of the self-strengthening movement of the 1860s was frustrated by a series of military defeats in the 1880s and the 1890s. In the 19th century, the great Chinese diaspora began. Losses due to immigration were added to by conflicts and catastrophes such as the Northern Chinese Famine of 1876 to 1879, in which between 9 to 13 million people died. The Guangzhou Emperor drafted a reform plan in 1898 to establish a modern constitutional monarchy, but these plans were thwarted by the Empress Dowager Dowager CZ. The ill-fated anti-foreign Boxer rebellion of 1899 to 1901 further weakened the dynasty. Although CZ has sponsored a program of reforms known as the late Qing Reform, the Xinhai Revolution of 1911 and to 1912 brought an end to the Qing dynasty and established the Republic of China. Puyi, the last emperor of China, abdicated in 1912. The next, we are going to look at the establishment of the Republic of and World War II China, as we will look at between 1912 and 1949 and 1911 Revolution, Second Sino-Japanese War, Chinese Civil War, and Chinese Communism Revolution, as we will see in the next episode of looking at this material. The reviewing of this material is to provide information to establish capitalism as existing in different worlds under globalization, which began decades ago, and globalization is in its final stages now as we exist, and capitalism is the driver of the global economy. And I have argued elsewhere, as well as on this material, that the fundamental cause of poverty among the many of the population is the result of conducting an extreme form of capitalism, which actually take wealth away from the hands of the many and concentrate this wealth into the hands of the few for purposes of power and wealth and greed. It is a form of violence. It's a form of slave master mentality, which started many decades ago, which need to change, because the violence is getting worse and insidious, which means we don't see it anymore. It is so hidden. It's like a cancer which eats on the inside of our society. We need to revisit our cultural economy, which is a medicine of healing society from corruption, from violence, from destruction. We need to do this sooner rather than later to educate ourselves on how to live peacefully. Thank you for watching this video, and when talking about the cost of living or anything, I'm just have peace in my mind, and I believe that with peace we will actually survive as a species, and also not only survival, but we will also maintain a state of peace, of happiness as human, and also using technology and modern learning to actually do fantastic things, including prolonging our lives, and also preventing death, or also reversing the incidence of death, which is what now researchers are working on. And we live in a very exciting time, meaning if you even die, you can be brought back to life, which is going to be a great thing. And continue watching my video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the notification bell for another one, and for another video. Click like and leave a comment below. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.